We're getting started. Alrighty, fellas, we're back. Episode 13. We are super privileged. We got a couple of California's finest joining us today. We have a guest host, Gene Ramirez, Coach Ramirez from Monroe High School, out in the LA City section in the new hotbed of wrestling, the Valley, San Fernando Valley. It is hotbed for other things before, but definitely it's wrestling now. And we have, of course, the man who like really honestly basically put wrestling shoes style on the forefront, I would say. Mr. Fernando Rat Serrato. How you guys doing today?
What's up, man?
Real good, real good.
Happy to have you guys on. Thank you guys for taking this Sunday night to join Josh and I, the loyal, the faithful podcasters. Uh,
Throwing
I'm,
shade already on the other
I'm,
guys, huh?
I'm pretty sure we've had more special guests than we've had Mario on the podcast, which is sad.
Wow.
So,
I
Mario's
think
Is he
absolutely
not? Is he not back from his tournament?
no, he's back. He's just he's got to go to farmers market on Sunday nights, unfortunately. So he's got to stock up.
For,
I don't know if he's
yeah.
juicing or something, or getting waxed or something.
I think he's on some sort of cleanse.
I think it's what it is. Yeah. So he's always busy, and of course, with the topics that we're going over today, I know he really wanted to be on today. So I know
Yeah.
he's in our thoughts and prayers. So so anyhow,
Can I show the thing that I was gonna do with for Mario? I thought he was
yeah.
gonna be here.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Show.
Hold on.
Let's see.
So I wanted to like throw a little tribute to him, but of the club that I was gonna start over here called Fauna Monsters.
The I'm sure he appreciates. What is it? An invitation? It's the sincerest form of flattery.
Maybe so, but I'm not wearing no green tights like he does.
Oh well, there's plenty of room for him.
Oh,
But again, I think it's very accurate. The bear you have above him. Oh, but wait, is that the new clothing line that I see?
yeah, there's another one. Hold on.
Oh, look at this. Ramirez is on
Let's get
par
this one.
with this
Dude,
Photoshop.
this clothing line, these tournaments that I'm gonna be holding, oh my God.
It's just,
Yeah. Let me know if you need some shoe insight, man. I got you.
there we
Oh,
go.
nice. Can you guys pronounce that?
Zymar? Zermar? I don't even know where to begin with.
Zerimar, man. Zerimar.
I can already hear Sandy Stevens yelling at it at Fargo next year. So, anyhow, Fernando, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah.
Your family's quickly becoming like one of the first family of girls wrestling here in California.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. We're blessed, that our girls and my son have want to step on the mat and continue the path that mom and dad kind of started, and it's fun, it's stressful, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So that's pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome. I think you guys are honestly like a real, true testament to what I've been saying for years. Because when I would get into it with coaches about how important girls wrestling is and how girls wrestling is essentially going to save wrestling, in my opinion. Because if you have, I mean, obviously, if dad wrestled, Junior's going to wrestle. At some point in his life, he's going to give it a shot. But if mom and dad both wrestled, you bet not only is Junior going to wrestle, but so is Susie, so is the little ones are all going to wrestle. And you guys are like definitely like demonstrating that.
Yeah, mom and I just provide the resources that we can in order for them to succeed, and we'll drive all over and provide whatever we need to provide in order for them to succeed. But the crazy thing is that we really are not pushing them. I'm honest with them, and I tell them what they need to do in order to achieve their goals, and they put in the work. And is it a fight sometimes? Absolutely, but there is no crazy mom and dad scenario at the Serrato's household. It's just brutally honest communication from a father standpoint and a mother standpoint. And they're blessed to have great mentors like Jordan and Adeline and other athletes that we can reach out to, and they can get on the phone and communicate with them, and they can hear it from a different source. So they're definitely spoiled at times and blessed at the same time.
Dude, what are you talking about? They're spoiled. As a parent, bitch, you're spoiled. You know how hard it would be to be like, hey, you know what? You don't believe me? Pick up the phone right now. Hit the first contact. That's Jordan. Ask Jordan what. Ask the Olympic champ what I'm saying is true. That's spoiled.
Yeah, definitely blessed from our standpoint as well, right? I mean,
It's
just yeah, it's definitely cool to have those guys and as friends and in your contact list for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, I know when I saw Jordan at your house, I'm just like, the first time I saw it, I was like, what? You got to be kidding me. You know, like, yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
obviously see you in the work environment, having them, with you,
yeah,
like that. But on the other side of it, just seeing on the personal side, having the kids together, them hanging out at the house. I mean, that's awesome. That's really cool, especially from a kid from Santa Ana who, I mean, let's
yeah.
face it, man, not a lot of kids get out of that area. And before we even get into that, why don't we talk a little bit about you and about when you started wrestling, where you come from, all that good stuff. Because I mean,
Yep.
seeing you where you are, I don't think people really understand exactly the journey that you had.
Yeah, it's definitely been the struggle and obstacles, and I grew up in Santa Ana. I was the youngest of three boys, and my middle brother wrestled, and my goal and aspirations was to play shortstop for the LA Dodgers, and I watched the Sandlot and watched the '88 World Series, and I was a big fan of the sport, and obviously the dollars that kind of they get paid was definitely a motivation, but heading into my freshman year that summer. I got caught for tagging, and I was heading in the wrong path, hanging out with the wrong people, and I took the rap
Tagging.
for everybody.
Okay, okay, hang on. I'm not letting that go. Tagging. Come on. What was it?
Yeah,
What
man.
was it?
That's something that I
Yeah,
like
would
to
you tag
keep,
Chaka?
under the
Shout out,
sheets.
hey, that's my
Yeah,
cousin. That's my
Got to
cousin.
I
represent the
wasn't that
homies.
cool. I wasn't that cool. That guy's a legend in the tagging world.
Dude, that guy was leaving the courthouse and tagged the elevator.
He did. I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy was a real gangster, man.
Dude, that guy, yeah, no F's given. But sorry about that. So go
No,
ahead.
no, it's all good. It's all good. So, both of my parents are immigrant. I think my dad had like a fifth grade education. My mom a third grade education, and they came to the States, for the vision and to live the American dream. And basically got arrested. I came home. My mom and my dad kind of gave me their story and how they left their families to provide a better environment for us, and they kind of gave me, they didn't even whip me. They
I,
just gave
I
me
was
the
gonna
biggest guilt
say,
trip.
you
Yeah,
didn't get the chancla?
I didn't get the
You didn't get the
chancla. Man, that
chancla?
was the first time that I
Oh,
ever broke the rules, and I didn't get a whipping. I got, an honest conversation, man to man conversation from my father, and the biggest guilt trip, and
I said the
and I got,
disappointment. Huh? The disappointment
yeah,
was the
and
worst
my dad
thing.
never showed that, and for me that really impacted me, and so basically that entire summer I was locked inside the house, and I went to a wrestling practice with my middle brother, and it was at El Medina High School Summer League, and I'm wearing my Cortezes and my Ben Davis shorts, and I'm in El Medina High School, and some random kid, maybe 90 pounds, hits me up and he's like, "Hey man, you want to wrestle?" And I said, "Nah, I don't like to roll around with guys, sweaty guys." And then 20 minutes later he came back. He asked me again, and I said no, and he called me a wussy, and I didn't take that very kindly because I was a kid from Santa Ana, tough kid from Santa Ana, and we went out there and wrestled, and the crazy thing is, and I tell my kids the story, and they think it's so hilarious. I felt like there was 5 of those guys on top of me, like he was in every way, shape, or form just beating me up. We got off the mat, he beat me up, and I did what the next guy would do, and I went and found the smallest guy in the room, and tried to beat him up just to kind of put some pride back in myself. And I barely beat him. And Scott Glad saw me wrestle and got off the mat, bought me a Gatorade, and basically just handed me a pair of wrestling shoes and was like, "You're gonna be a wrestler. You're gonna wrestle." And my brother kind of supported that, and that was the only thing that I could do that summer, so I did it, and it just never stopped after that.
Okay, nice. So, so then there wasn't like wrestling in your background. Then there was no history of
No,
it, nothing like that. Just
nah.
coming through, huh? I think probably the disappointment of my dad was enough for me to do a lot of things, and I don't. I mean, he never gave me a hard time. He whooped my butt a lot, and I deserved it a lot.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think the one time that he showed genuine disappointment in me, it was just like, man, I'll never forget that day. It was terrible. So I get that.
Yeah.
And then you had
Yeah.
a pretty successful career in high school.
I did, I wasn't serious still, I really loved the sport, and I was still kind of halfway in terms of following the right path, and halfway out and hanging out with the wrong crew, and not, it wasn't until Sadie Morales and Ignacio Bahina and Tony Perez and, all those guys kind of recreated this brotherhood, and all we did was train, and we kept wrestling, and we just started getting really good and started meeting people we shouldn't be beating. And for me, that just kind of motivated me. And I just started like talking to Coach Vince Silva. I asked him one time, I said, Coach, what do I need to do in order to succeed? I want to be a champion. And he goes, shut your mouth, show up to practice, and run through brick walls for me. And I just did that. And, I ended up winning 2 CIF titles. I was the first Masters champion. Disappointing. I mean, for me, it was disappointing. 5th place in the state championships. I ended up tech falling the state champion earlier at Masters, and won a JC state title. Finished 3rd. Ended up coaching at Boston University, going to school out there. So everything worked out.
Yeah. No, I just remembered seeing you make that transfer, when you got done with your JC career, and then seeing you sign on over at Boston University. I was like, man, that's awesome. Knowing where you came
Yeah,
from and stuff like that. It's always good to see somebody getting out.
I
You know,
appreciate that, man.
that
It
was
was definitely it was definitely a sacrifice, because I'm the youngest of 3 boys, and my mom was so angry at me when I told her I was moving to Boston because I'm her baby, and she stopped talking to me for like a week and a half because I was leaving. She even offered to, she was like, "Hey, go to Cal State Fullerton. You don't even have to work. I'll get a second job and just wrestle and focus in school, and you can get the same education here." But my coming from a Hispanic background, they didn't really understand the levels of universities, and and how that opens up different opportunities in terms of real life, and I still kind of did it, and my mom was mad, and it worked out, and now she's telling me, I go visit her, and she's like, what's the game plan for the girls? Where are they going to go to school? What, do you need
yeah.
some money for them to wrestle? You should talk to your brother and have his kids wrestle. And she's all about it now.
She sees it
So
as the gateway now, huh?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's funny you say it like that too, because I know, and Ramirez, you can maybe chime in on this too. I know for me, like I snuck off to wrestle at Cuesta. I met my now
Oh,
wife,
wow.
and I told my parents on Thursday, and I was gone on Friday,
Yeah.
and they were like, "What? Like, you're dating this girl for a year, and now you're moving, and you have a daughter down here." But I only have a daughter every other weekend, so they were just like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, stay here, work." That was kind of the big thing,
Mm-hmm.
in our household was graduate high school. College was kind of a nice thing, but not a priority. And then,
Yeah.
and you had to work because I had a kid at 17. So, then when I went off, and then when I sent my daughter off to college, it was like, what? Like, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
send her to Missouri? And it was, they were, she's not ready. She's not mature enough. She's not all these
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
it's like, look, it's the best thing for her. It's not that I want her to go,
Yeah.
it's scary,
Yeah.
but the other side of it, I mean, it was a good thing, and I mean, at least because you went out there with Monica, correct? Like she went out there with you.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so
the crazy thing is we met in junior college, and, it was nothing serious. I had tunnel vision, to kind of get past the JC level and go D1. And she just basically sat me down and was like, "Hey, I'm not ready to give this up. I'm going to go out there." And, I basically just told her, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm down for that, but we can't like accept your parents' money. If we go out there, it's just you and I, and we're going to have to struggle. And if you're down for that, then let's go. And if you're not, then don't come, because it's just going to be a distraction."
mhm.
And she bit the bullet. She came out, and as much as it was stressful at times because we didn't have food to eat, and we would sneak into the cafeteria and eat food and sneak food out. It made us grow up a lot faster because it was just her and I. So now that we're dealing with the kids and this whole wrestling dynamics and all that, it's still her and I just trying to check away and trying to provide for these kids. So it's an awesome partnership.
Nice. Ramirez, how was your college experience?
You know what? I had no support whatsoever. I used to get home from school, and all I got asked is what you want for dinner. That was it. Never do you have homework? How was school today? Where you plan on going to college? It was all self-driven. So I'll be honest with you. My mom, she's proud of that. That I was on my own feet most of the time. I've been working since I was 14 years old, and she knows that I'm a hard worker. So when she knows I put my head to something, she just leaves me alone. That's pretty much it. That's kind of how I was raised. The little boy in the corner playing with his Legos, being creative, or riding his bike out in Los Angeles somewhere. That's my story.
What about you, Josh?
That's awesome,
I know
man.
Josh. I mean, Josh's dad, I know was pretty supportive of his wrestling and stuff like that. But what was it for you, Josh? After high school, what was the plan? Did your parents have a plan for you?
Yeah. Well, Fernando made the right decision not going to Cal State Fullerton because I did.
Who was the coach then? Was it Archer?
Ardeshir.
Archer?
Yeah. And then, unfortunately, Christian Holiday was on his way out the year I came in. Like, literally, we missed each other by a couple months, and now we're coaching together. But it would have been nice to have somebody that was, like, responsible and mature there, even though he was probably only 24 years old, 23. I mean, we literally missed plane rides to tournaments. We missed buses. We forgot to rent vans. It was pretty disorganized for the time I was there.
Romper room.
Yeah, it was romper room. It was like you talk to guys that you had, been on national team trips with and stuff, and you're calling them in camps, and you're, hey man, are you guys wrestling yet? And they're like, oh yeah, we've been wrestling for 2 months. You're not wrestling? No, we're playing ultimate frisbee and soccer every day.
That's right. He loved soccer, man.
Yeah, into this, like, we're in the season and we're playing soccer and ultimate frisbee. It was like, it was fun, but not really the best for developmental stuff as a wrestler.
You dropped the program, right?
Right.
I mean, it's interesting to hear everybody's different stories. I mean, I'm super lucky. I mean, you guys see my parents still to this day at the events.
Yeah.
I mean, they're super supportive. And they do everything they can for us. And I mean, like Fernando is with his kids. My parents would pack all of us in the car just for me to wrestle. And I don't think anybody knew me because I wrestled. Like, I was a good wrestler. They knew me because my family was a loud Mexican family in the corner with no shame. They were like, boom, boom, boom. Like, they were going crazy, win or lose. I could never.
That reminds me of one story, man. I'll share with you guys. It's so funny. My parents only came to watch me maybe a handful of times, like 3 different times. Once against Calvary, and then maybe Edison, and the third time was at Freestyle State here at what was that university here in Orange? They like the lights went out. Chapman University. We had state games that year there, and my brother was a big time gangster, and my dad had no shame. He just figured out how to get on the floor, and I'm in the semifinals wrestling Curtis Sherkamp, and all of a sudden I hear like white Mexican slang gangsterish, and it's my brother in the corner yelling against Donnie Garriott, telling me what to do, and Donnie Garriott looks at my brother and he doesn't say anything to him, and Donnie stops coaching me, and I think Tito Ortiz was in the corner as well, and all I heard was my brother, and I ended up winning that match. So I ended up kind of like looking at my brother, and I was like, what are you doing here? He's just like, dude, you just got to, in his gangster talk, you just got to wrestle hard. You got to go after that fool.
Grab him, fuck him up, man. Like,
oh my God, I can't even say the things that my brother was saying. And then I turned next to my brother.
Tell me he was Power Rangering in the corner, dude. He was grabbing his belt buckle, dude. He's like,
oh yeah, he had a wife beater on. Oh, dude, with the
this pedal pin pulled over his arm.
Oh yeah, dude, the house shoes, and what's crazy? It was like 1,000 degrees that day, and he's still rocking pants. It's crazy.
Crease, right?
Dickies. Yeah, the
big
crease.
Dude,
they were so starched, dude. I think they were robot. He looked like he was like a robot. I don't even think those pants were like bending and stuff.
Dude, my sister could literally take her pants off and stand them up. I think her and her friends would crease their boxers too. Like, they would crease them, just crazy.
Yeah, but I remember, like, I ended up winning that tournament, and I had Curtis Sherkamp in the finals, and Curtis and I were laughing at the fact that my brother and my dad were there in the corner, and then after the finals, I was doing some sprints in the back, and I was talking to Donnie Gary, and I think it was either Noodle or Tito, or Carl Behringer, and I said, "You guys, why'd you guys let my family down there?" And I remember Donnie saying, "Have you seen your brother?" He's like, "What? You gonna argue with him? I ain't gonna argue with him." And then they started asking each other, "You gonna argue with him?" They're like, "No, man." And I was so embarrassed. Here I am winning a state title, and my brother is like nonsense on the mat. Thinking he's Dan Gable coaching me, and I was just like, "Oh my god."
Dude, it would have been awesome if he had like a hairnet on and just
Oh
Oh,
my God.
in the corner, dog, just
with the Lokes on.
throwing it up on the podium after you're done. Like,
Oh, dude, it was
uh,
funny because he was just saying some nasty things, man. I had to tell him like, bro, you can't listen, man. I love you, and you can come and support me all you want, but you can't be talking smack to people like that, man. Like, this is not the hood, dude.
it's funny too. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's just Latinos or whatever, but you win a small tournament, dude. Oh, my son's a state champion. It's like you can win any tournament. He's the best. But I
Hey,
mean,
bro, in my mom's eyes, I was a world champ, bro. She
yeah,
still says that.
dude.
So I'm not. Yeah, I'm good. I'll just let her believe that I was a world champ. So it's
Meanwhile,
all
you,
good.
you you go outside at that time, and the Calvary parents are like yelling at their kid for getting choked out at Masters.
Oh,
You
for getting one takedown on them, etc.
know?
It's crazy, man. That's incredible.
So so then you go from Boston to where? Like, how does the
So I transitioned into a TA at Santa Ana High School with Glab, and spent 2 years there, and then I had the opportunity to kind of establish ourselves with Wrestling Mart. So that's where my career really took off. And Mike Applegate and Bob Lake were big time mentors, and Mike really taught me the business side of how to run a business, and luckily it was wrestling, so it was intriguing to me. From there, I met Aaron Creasy, and he moved me over to Clinch Gear, and I spent 3.5 years there. And then, it's crazy. Sometimes it's opportunities and who you know, and just kind of putting your head down and working hard. And Bill Farrington, he was the head team guy for A6. He reached out to me. I knew him from John Azevedo and Coach Glad from FCA. And he basically just told me, he goes, "Hey, man, I got this opportunity for you to come in at A6 and, help develop the global wrestling shoes." And he's like, "Unfortunately, it's a step down on where you're at, but, I think if you come in, you just establish yourself, you can really move forward." And I mean, at that point, I sat down with my wife and I just said, "Hey, man, we're going to have to eat top ramen for the next year, because I'm going to take a $20,000 pay cut, and I'm going to go work for A6." And everything worked out. I got promoted, became a global manager within 2 years, and not only influenced the global development for the wrestling shoes, but for tennis, volleyball, baseball, some basketball in Japan, and even soccer. So it was, my team was fantastic. Working with the Japanese was definitely a good learning tool, and working with the athletes that like Jordan and Gable and Adeline and Rulon, Kale. It's definitely a blessing, because I'm a big fan of them. So it was kind of surreal that I was there working with them and kind of designing their shoes.
now?
So,
At what point do you sit down and look around like, shit, from Santa Ana to here? I mean, seeing you on Instagram, like you're in Japan and you're flying out and stuff like that. Like, at
Yeah.
what is there ever a point where you just sit there and just like, damn, you know?
All the time, man. I didn't take that for granted. I knew that, that was just my hard work, and it could be gone the next day, and I definitely lived the life into the max with and I continue to work hard and hit the pavement, and I sacrificed a lot of time away from home in order to provide for them and to kind of get my career in the right path. And luckily everything has worked out, and everything kind of is streamlined now, and I get to spend a lot of more time with my kids.
so Fernando, take us into like the development of a shoe. I know like molds get destroyed after the first generation. And
Yeah.
take us into like how do you work with the athlete? How much input does like Jordan Burroughs actually have on his shoe, or Dan Gable,
Well,
or do you guys just present them something and they, yeah, I don't, little changes
yeah,
just.
yeah. It all depends on the athlete. To be honest with you, Gable was super easy. When we were trying to concept shoes, and Gable was just like, "Hey, I just want the most comfortable wrestling shoe on the planet, and I need a black and gold version, Iowa colors. So that was fairly simple. So we would just, show him designs and color concepts, and he would be, that's fine, that's cool with me. Just make sure the black and gold. And then Rulon was pretty impactful as well. Kale, towards the end, he really had a lot more influence from the design element to the color direction. But Jordan and Adeline definitely were the ones that were most vocal in terms of color direction, materials. I mean, it got to a point at my end stay at ASICS that I was FaceTiming Jordan while I was in Japan and just kind of going over what we can do and what we can't do at the price point of his shoe. And, Jordan definitely revolutionized the ASICS way in terms of team sports, because his JB 3.0 was the very first shoe that didn't include the ASICS Tiger Stripes. And, that's what Jordan wanted. I really pushed for it. I really had a rhyme and reason for it. And the shoe looks fantastic. So I was really proud of fulfilling that dream for Jordan and really changing the way that ASICS kind of looked at their branding.
Yeah, I think that was the first time I really looked at ASICS and was like, wow, that's different. Because everything kind of has that base, with the stripes. Mm-hmm. It's kind of that base, and then the subtleties are kind of on the outside of that. But you always have like that base, but that I think was kind of cool to see it go a different direction for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. My argument was, we always design around the tiger stripes. And my thing was like, let's just design the shoe and then we'll figure out the tiger stripes or branding later. Like, let's just make this shoe really pop off. And, when Nike's into it at that time, and Adidas is bringing some heat, these young consumers, man, they don't care about the brand. They care about what they're going to put on their feet and what's going to make them feel good, wrestle good type of mentality, and they're not committed to one brand. So my team and I really kind of put that, type of mentality forward. And, and Jordan kind of had that type of ideas as well. So we were in line. I mean, we basically locked ourselves up in the room for 5 to 6 hours. And, we had lunch in the room. I don't think we left the room. And, we kind of provided some sketches, some designs, and Jordan kind of continued to spitball ideas. So,
well, ASICS were my first pair of shoes in high school, and I still have them. And what makes them? That makes them like 30 years old, man. Talking about the stripes, I got a story on the stripes, man. We had an old coach at Birmingham. I wrestled at Birmingham High School, and we had an old coach who used to come in and just beat the crap out of us, man. He was retired. Parsons was his name. He'd just come and beat us up all the time, show us new moves, show us the little intricacies on how to cause pain. Well, anyways, he's wearing ASICS. And he puts me in a double chicken wing, and he's demonstrating. And me, being the smart butt that I am, I decide to bridge on him so he can't get that pin. And he goes, oh, when they do this, see the texture on the stripes of my shoe? You just run them right across his forehead. Woof. And he cuts my head. Like I go home with the tiger stripes on my forehead, man. And ever since then, I still tell this story when I show my shoe. And I said, if you're going to buy a shoe, buy it textured. Make sure, I don't care if it's the Adidas stripe, the Nike stripe, it has to have some texture because you can run it across the face of somebody.
Those aggressors will run right across your face real quick.
Oh, yeah, those too, man. Those are like wicked.
Yeah, those will rip you up. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gosh. No, my first ASICs were the white, all white with red and blue. Gosh, dude, that was 87, I think. And then
probably splits.
Split seconds, maybe? Split second one.
Definitely.
Yeah. And then when I went to Russia, my parents got me the Gables, the red Gables. It was the first time they ever had the instep, or the inside on the tread, on the toe. Mm-hmm. And it was the first time I'd ever seen that. I thought it was just so revolutionary. Like, oh my God, look, so don't wear off the toe. Like, oh. And the goal is to kind of wear that off as you're practicing and stuff like that.
As you're driving, yeah.
It's just like, trying to get it to wear out. But I just remember that. ASICS, I don't know anybody who started with, I guess nowadays you have kids who start without ASICS, but up until, Adidas really stepped the game up. I mean, with Brute, Brute really had some shoes, but they didn't really push that hard. Of course, Nike had their Colats, which I still think arguably are the most legit shoes.
Definitely. One of the top 5 for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's go over top 5. All right, Josh,
Yeah.
before we go to the man, let's go down the line here. Josh,
Okay.
shoes, regardless of ASICs or not.
For me, top 5. I mean, there's a difference between like the way they look and the way they perform. But I guess my top 5 would be 1, International Lights. Number 2 would probably be like the Adidas old school ringers, like not that they don't have to be the pink 88s, but like the old school. They just
Super
turf
high
toe.
top.
I always get turf toe with those though, so I couldn't wear those much. And then I have probably the 54s, the A6 54s with the Velcro inside.
Yeah.
And I like any of the Gables have been good, except I don't like the old Gables that were like the Schultz, the single sole. The Gables.
Okay.
Unisole.
Like I don't like the Unisole. I like the split sole ones. And then my last one, the Colats would probably be 5.
Yeah.
What about you, Ramirez?
I only have one pair, man. I have to look it up right now to see if you guys can see it. I'm gonna get it close.
Oh, those are the
Nice,
those are the
close.
splits for sure.
Where are they at?
Yeah.
There you go. Remember those?
I think that was my first pair. That was probably my first pair.
Remember those with the red dots underneath? With the red dots?
With the rotational splits. Oh yeah, man. Yeah,
that's it. That's the only pair right there. I put those on. These kids know I'm wrestling. I have other pairs, not going to mention them because of Fernando, but that I do demos in. But if I'm going to wrestle with some kids, I throw those on, man.
I know he's about to bring the pain. Well, I would say because I've bought my kid easily, and I had a lot of I had a friend named Lonnie Lansford who used to work for ASICS back in the day, dude, like when I was in high school, so then like early 90s, and Lonnie was awesome, dude. He was super cool guy, and his son wrestled on my team. I played football with his son too, and yes, they do make helmets that big, and Lonnie would bring
do
us.
They make shoulder pads that small?
That's the hard part. They never get to the shoulder pads, but no. Anyhow, so Lonnie would hook us up big time. He really would help. My parents were awesome. They always hooked me up with shoes. So the mixture between getting myself shoes and buying my daughter shoes, I would say number 1 always will be the International Lights. I preferred the blue with the pink. I think that was the best color scheme they ever made. But you can't find those anymore.
The green and gray ones. I like the green and gray.
Those no, you shut your mouth. That you got the red or the white with red Omniflex. Like I think they were the Kales. Those my daughter had. She wore those things literally till the zippers busted, and then she still wore them a little longer. And she stopped. Yeah. She still has them. Those are number 2 probably. The Adidas. The Addy Stars are pretty slick. I still think those are pretty amazing. Colats aren't on my list. I've never owned them. I can remember seeing them in the Sports Illustrated when Colat had an ad, and just thinking like, God, I want them. But that was a time when Nike like put out like 100 pairs and then just shut it down, and you'd see them in like eBay or East Bay in size 13, and I got freaking miniature feet, so they were just terrible. I hated them. And then the last ones, I would say, I think now I tried the Nikes on the new Nikes, and I don't think they hold up very long. So that's why they're not really on my list. But I'll go old school. I'll go with the Brute, the John Smith Brute.
Wow.
I remember those.
The 88 or 92s, yeah, like that. Those, yeah. I had a red pair. Those are awesome. I wish I could find those.
Yeah.
Those would be my 5. All right, Fernando, what do you say?
I'm gonna say International Light for sure. That's the rhyme and reason why those came back. I was in Japan. I'll tell you guys a story before I move forward. I was in Japan and we were in a meeting, and the big boss, Takahama-san, asked me. He goes, "Hey man, it's like if there's one shoe that you can bring back in wrestling, what would it be?" And it just came out of my mouth, International Lights. And he goes, "Let's do it." And and it was
wow.
Josh, I know that you hit me up every other weekend and kind of gave me a hard time about it, but it was definitely something that I wanted to bring back because I felt like that was a shoe that really evolved ASICS wrestling. With the flat pancake sole, and it just took it to another level.
And then it got
So
to the point. It got to the point where Fernando knew it was coming, and he couldn't really tell me. And then I was like, "Come on, you can tell me. I won't tell anybody."
Yo,
I promise.
that was probably the hardest thing in terms of my job is keeping things under wraps. I couldn't like I would share with my wife, or I'd come home with samples that I was trying out, and my kids would go bananas. Or I'd be at the local high school kind of working out, and the kids would pull out their phones, and I would ask them nicely to not take pictures, and that was definitely one of the hardest things. But number two, I'm gonna say Kendall Cross Added Stars. Those were fire. They're still fire. My wife just actually gave my oldest daughter her pair. Number three, the Colats. Number four, I'm gonna probably say the Omniflex, the zipper ones. And then number five is gonna be a tie between the new JBs, only because we really revolutionized the kind of design aspect of a shoe, and then the 54s.
Nice. So, what's coming up? I mean, you got to realize the game is just big now.
Yeah,
It's
it's crazy.
bigger than it's ever been. I won't say it's basketball shoe level, but I could see by the time maybe my little ones up, wrestling, I think it's going to be huge. So
Yeah, I didn't realize like how big it was and how crazy these kids were until like I came across Funky Flicker, and then going to Fargo and seeing all the shoes out there, and then to high school nationals and walking the little swap meet. Yeah, I mean it was insane for the amount of money these kids first of all had in their pockets, and two, the what they were selling the shoes for. I was like, I almost floored myself. I'm like, wow, man, you guys are crazy. And but at the same time, it was kind of surreal because you're right. It's almost at that level. I mean, yeah, you don't have the participation in terms of high school participations for the sport, but definitely these kids, man, now they're multiple pairs of shoes, and the thing is, these kids have to buy multiple pairs of shoes because they're wrestling year round, so they're wearing out shoes like there's nobody's business.
mhm. Well, how do you feel about that? I mean, with the whole, like, say, like for instance, because Fargo back in the day was you had the marketplace. Everybody was out there, and for a
Yeah,
California singlet, man, you can get a you know an Illinois package for California singlet. Like back in the day,
yeah,
and
yeah,
now it's like Nike sponsoring California. It's kind of like it's. I feel like it's leading everybody to the same vanilla singlet. It just says USA on the front. It only says California down the back.
hmm
You feel like it takes away the identity of the state in a way?
I mean, it all depends what the kids want. When I was working with California USA Wrestling, the kids, kind of the captains of the kids, really had an influence on the design of the singlet with Rob Valerio. I don't know what type of impact they have now. I do agree with you. I do see a lot of recycled type of templates being out there. And the fact is that when one style hits, it's just you have a short time to kind of capitalize on that. So I can totally understand that. But there's some brands out there that are kind of still moving the pace in terms of design and really taking it to another level. But there's just so many options now, and the internet's so strong to kind of provide those options to the end user, the consumer. So I mean, it's just difficult.
Yeah, I just miss that having that California singlet even just the
Yeah.
California gear that was fire.
Yeah.
I mean, you look forward to
Yeah.
seeing them release the gear package. Now it's like
Yeah.
the singlets are literally I mean, ridiculous amount in terms of
Mm-hmm.
price. Then it's vanilla, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I mean, there's some people that like basic, but when it matches somebody else, another state's, and it just says
Mm-hmm.
the name on the back really small, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that just kind of takes away from the idea of like seeing the bear, seeing the palm tree, seeing the different things on the singlets that you knew it was California. That was California.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So Fernando, how have you gotten your hands on the Rudis Snyders, and how do you like them? What do you think about them? They kind of like
I
stepped up their
haven't.
game.
Yeah, I haven't got held of a pair. I did talk to Kyle Snyder at Jordan's birthday party, and we sit down and geeked out for 45 minutes on the shoes, and he kind of gave me some insights that I can't share, unfortunately. But I'm still waiting for him to send me a pair. I think it's good. I think that they're thinking outside the box, going direct to consumer, not resellers. They're definitely gaining the gross profit margin and allowing them to kind of keep the doors open. But I think, building a wrestling shoe is very, very difficult. And all I'm going to say is you got the clinch gears, you got the cage fighters, you got Brute. Cliff King had a shoe at one point, and everybody dropped their shoes, man, because the durability is a big factor. And these younger guys, these newer elite wrestlers, are going through shoes like nobody's business. And, I just hope for the sake of the company, the shoes are durable and wearable, because if not, they're going to have a short stay. But just looking at the shoes, they look fire. They look cool. I really don't like the other the other shoes, but I think the Kyle Snyder's are pretty legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, what do you see coming up for shoes, though? Like, what do you think the evolution is next? I mean, how far can it go?
It could go as far as anybody can envision. One of the things that really when I was with ASICS and my team is we always thought outside the box, and we had individuals like Jordan that kind of kept us on our toes and kept us going. And with the amount of competition that's in the market now, it's going to have to evolve, and it's better for the consumer because they're going to see cheaper price shoes, more durability, more design language, more flair on the shoes, like the whole gloss, the 3M material, the icy outsole, things of that nature. I just hope that, there's some brands out there that really recycle outsoles. And I think I don't agree with that. I think it's taking away from really those different price points. I hope that other brands don't follow that. But, outsoles could get expensive. Those molds definitely expensive. So I can see from a business strategy and standpoint that why they do that. But, knowing the insights and where I come from and what my vision was, I always try to push the envelope. And I just hope that
I have a question.
They do that.
You guys ready?
Yeah.
So back in the 80s, that's when I was wrestling. We'd go to the mall, we'd go out, we'd see people with wrestling shoes on. And I haven't really seen that with, especially with now that these kids and everybody has online stores and you can buy a shoe, get it shipped directly to your house, because most of the retailers don't carry the shoes until October or something, except WrestleMart, people like that. But do you see the shoe being that popular where we're going to start seeing it out on the street and about? And then, as us coaches, we're going to be sizing them up like, hey, you wear wrestling shoes. Did you wrestle? Do you want to?
Yeah, I'm not the only one that does that. I'm not the only one at the gym. Like, somebody shows up in a wrestling shoe. I'm like, halfway,
Right?
I probably shouldn't bite my bottom lip when I ask them. That's probably why they say no all the time.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. That trend is really big in Europe. I know that Onizuka Tiger had like a wrestling style at school. It's called the Ultimate 81 or something like that. That looked like a wrestling shoe. The upper material was a little bit more fashion forward, but you got like those Pumas that are really kind of minimalistic. I think they have them branded like with Ferrari, logos and stuff. But yeah, I've actually been at a retail store with European consumers buying wrestling shoes because they just like to wear them.
I got a funny story actually. So 24 Hour Fitness in Brea, right next to Cal State Fullerton. It's right back up the road, right? And I'm working out with my dad, and I come down for the weekend from Cuesta, and we hit the gym Saturday morning, and this guy walks up, and he's like, got wrestling shoes on, and I'm like literally tennis shoes, shorts, nothing wrestling on, just working out, and he comes up, he's like, hey, are you a wrestler? I was like, yeah, why? Like, who are you? And he's like, oh, hey, you ever wanna, get on the mat or just drill some time? Let me know. I get in the Cal State Fullerton's room, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like whatever. Yeah, take my number. All right, do whatever. Number, work out. Well, I'm fast forward like 2 years, and I'm working in Santa Fe Springs, and these guys come up to me and they start like massaging my shoulders, and I just start working, and they're like, hey, are you a wrestler? And I'm like, yeah, why? They're like, I got this guy in Brea that could get in the Cal State Fullerton's room at any time. There's a group of guys laughing. I'm like, what? Like, and they're like, oh, there's this guy, and they brought up the same exact guy, and I'm like, what? Like, and he was wearing wrestling shoes too. They're like, yeah, and we describe each other, and we're like, yeah, and we're like, man, I think that guy's like I don't know, roofing people, like, offering them a Gatorade with a roofie or something. Because it was like, it was so funny that these guys who had nothing to do with wrestling told the exact same story, and they were like 20 miles away, like in the opposite direction. And in LA,
That's too
the
funny.
rest of the country, 20 miles isn't that far, but in LA, there's a lot of people in 20 miles. But it's like, oh gosh. So yeah, moral of the story: don't hit people up at the gym. It's probably not a good idea. They're gonna get the wrong.
Nah, yeah, yeah, definitely.
All right, Fernando. Well, we're going to talk some
That's
topics.
crazy.
If you want to stay on and chime in,
Yeah, for sure.
And I
Yeah.
got one more question.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
Roma. So while we're still on shoes, so are you completely out of the shoe game right now? Or are you consulting with people, maybe like some like Compound or anything like that? What's going on?
There's some things in the works that I can't really say. Cliff and I have been working on some samples. Actually,
Size 12.
the iPad that I'm streaming is in the box of some shoe heat and some samples. The thing is, it just takes a lot of capital and a lot of time. And right now, I got to pick and choose my battles and spending time with my family and getting these guys brought to speed for the upcoming season, and my day job, which is important because that's what puts food on the table. And but who knows? I have deep conversations with some Asics people, with some Nike people. I talked to Kyle. I haven't really talked to anybody at Rudis in detail, but you never know what can happen, man. I definitely, let's just say that, packages are still showing up in my doorstep, which I really, really appreciate that, because not only myself, but, the girls are getting taken care of, and, and we've created monsters with these kids. My son's asking me to go to Wrestling Mart and buy him all the colored JBs, so when he wins the state title, he can wear one red, one white on the other shoe. And Cookie is like every other weekend is asking for new shoes. And my oldest is actually fitting into a lot of the old stuff that my wife wore and that I have. So she's wearing new shoes every other day as well. The only one that doesn't care is my middle one. She is like, give me some aggressors and just leave me alone. So,
Hey, Josh, I bet Fernando's closet looks like Mario's, only all of his are real.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mario
ouch.
actually has some good shoes.
Uh-huh.
Not as much as Jeff. I know Jeff has a ton. I only have I probably have 8 pairs, 10.
Yeah.
But Mario had a lot of Nikes, I think they were calling them.
Psyches, yeah.
The fake Nikes.
Yo, what's crazy is that after I left Asics, my LinkedIn got blown up by like all these knockoff factories, and they're like, "Oh, you have all the connections. We need to partner up." And they kept on sending me all the bootleg stuff, and I'm like, "Man, I'm not signing up for this. There's no way that I'm gonna associate my name with you guys." And to this day, I kind of still get it, and it's just like, "Nah, man, I'm good. I don't want to get called out, because these kids online are savages, man. They'll call you out."
And you can't erase it. You can't erase it once it's there. Like,
oh my God, dude! I
right.
was loved one week, and they were calling from my head the other week. I'd walk around at a wrestling tournament, and kids would tell me how much I sucked. It was bananas, dude. I was like, wow, really, you guys? And then I would take 2-3 steps, and some other dudes would be like, yo, let's talk wrestling shoes. And I would sit there for 20-30 minutes, talking it up, and which was cool, because I really enjoyed talking to those kids. But yeah, man, those online stuff, filter.
I think it was Bryce Meredith, maybe like his freshman or sophomore year, got called out for wearing some like Nikes or something, and somebody said, "I can't believe you'd wear these shoes." And they ended up being that Doyle Trout's wrestling shoes that he wore to get
at the
bring it with him. Yeah, at NCAA's. And finally, when the story got out, whoever called him out looked like a real jerk. But
everybody's a shoe designer. Everybody can develop shoes. Everybody knows what the color combinations are. Everybody knows what's the next best thing, but no one's willing to put the money, to move it forward. So, but at the end of the day, man, I appreciated everybody that gave me positive and negative feedback, because you have to listen to them. Some kids really had some great ideas, and I had a great conversation with 5 kids at high school nationals, and we chalked it up for like 2 hours, man. I almost like
Wow.
I was so so gracious of them opening up and providing insight. If it wasn't for NCAA violations, I would have taken those guys to a nice steak dinner and just kind of to tell them like, "Yo, this is you. Like, I'm gonna do this because of you guys." So
Yeah, I can understand that too, because like even I seen you at the NCAAs a couple times, and I know you, and I'm like, I'm not gonna bug him. He's working, and then,
nah,
but a
man.
couple times I'd see you and
I'll
you're
bug
standing
him.
there with somebody, and you could just see that 1,000 yard stare just off of nothing. Like this guy's just chopping, and Fernando's just being nice, like trying to engage him, but just he's off. He's like way off.
Yeah, that's my wife mentioned that at the podcast the last time. I stop and say hello to everybody, man. I did, you know what I mean. People want to chat wrestling issues. I'll talk with them. People want to talk rules, whatever registration. I'm all about growing the sport and being available for these guys because I mean, you just never know. They can influence you, or they can open an opportunity for you. You just never know. So I know my wife likes to get in and out of tournaments, and with 4 kids running amok, she rightfully so. But at the same time, man, I got to stop and I got to say hello, and it's just a level of mutual respect.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, all right. On that note, so the Pan Ams for this weekend for the school kids. I think we got all golds and one silver. Is that
Yeah,
true?
nine golds, 1 silver.
Yeah, that's a pretty good showing. But I did hear that the brackets maybe weren't super big, so maybe some countries didn't send people. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that I hear it more called intercontinentals. So I
Hmm.
think it's just South America, like North and South America, is all that competed. And I saw some Ecuador, Mexico, El Salvador, a couple more South America countries that were there. Um, but it was, I think there are anywhere between 3 and 6 kids in the bracket, and I know we took some hammers, so
Yeah.
to not win would have been disappointing for a lot of those girls.
Yeah, I mean that's still a good showing. I mean, when you're considering that, okay, well, these countries. I mean, it's good to see these countries developing. I know Mexico has been putting a real push in, even trying to get some people from the U.S. to go down there and represent their country. They're putting a lot of money, but I know Ecuador has got some people moving in to help
Mm-hmm.
grow their program, stuff like that. So I think it's pretty awesome to have that growing, even on the senior level, the girls' side. And I think Jordan had some tough matches with the Colombian, right? Like the Colombian guy was actually
Mm-hmm.
pretty legit a couple times. So it's kind of cool to see them growing, And I think for us too here in California, it kind of helps us being able to point to people from South American countries because we have those kids in our area. Like, hey, look, viable back in your home country too, And
Yeah, it gives them
Yeah,
another
that's one of my
opportunity.
recruiting tools.
yeah, because I mean, Fernando and Ramirez, you can both, I guess, comment on this. The, the community that you grew up in and that you kind of serve now, um, which I mean you serve everybody, but I mean that you're kind of focused on sometimes. Um, Not super wrestling involved, right? I mean soccer is probably the number one thing, off the top, and then you got baseball. Not a whole lot of basketball players in our culture, at least not on the high levels. But
Literally high.
yeah, so I play handball on the curb, but how I mean, how sh- how do you grow it in those areas? I mean, I've coached in Panorama City, and I know it was ridiculously hard. Even and I focus on the girls' side, it was dang near impossible. But then you have some teams, unless you have a culture, I guess, in that area, right? Because like San Fernando, those programs, they have a culture, but everybody
Yeah,
else,
in
it's hard.
San Fernando, it's like almost like a second generation. They're probably already working on their third generation here. I know Monroe, we were ranked, I think, like 2 years ago or a year ago, the highest transient school in all of LA Unified, meaning that we had kids from other countries come. They'd stay with us maybe 6, maybe 5 months, and then they transfer out. Some even sooner than that. So having that culture, it's hard because you got kids coming and going all the time. Our numbers are always changing. Uh, so you're always trying to find. I got a lot of boys that I look at and I say, hey, come here, man. You're working out. You look good shape. You run fast. Hey, how about you try wrestling? He goes, well, can I do it while I work? And a lot of these kids, they have jobs because most of them do look like grown men already. And so, you know, on that side of the valley, a little further north where San Fernando's at, I think it's an easier sell because of the fact that they're working on the second or third generation. On our side, which like Van Nuys and myself, because he and I are always exchanging our little sob stories, we're always crying on each other's shoulders about how difficult it is to get them in. You know, the machismo culture, I don't see that it is more because now it's more about the mom. The mom doesn't want him to get on the mat versus like the dad's sometimes not around or he's working too much. So it's more the mom than anybody.
Right, and I think a lot of it is that they're not educated, right, of the sport. Like they don't know the ins and outs. Like they just feel like it's so barbaric and so, it's meant for a boy instead of a girl. And when they see each other throwing each other, all over the place, they just are like, wait, that's a sport. That's ridiculous. You're not doing that, But it's breaking that barrier, and once you do that, and the kid loves it, the mom will support them. There's nothing like Hispanic mom support, well, any mom support, but they'll go through, through brick walls, through hell and earth, just to kind of make sure that their babies are, getting provided what they need to in order to succeed.
Now on the other side, Josh, your team hasn't grown much. I mean, you got, I think you're up 200% this year, though, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, what challenges are you facing on that end?
It's difficult. I mean, you get, it's these kids, I mean, kids in general in the last 10, 15 years have gotten, a little more complacent and not very hard workers, and especially being in North Orange County, everything's spoon fed to them, and a little more prissy. A lot of these girls, once you get a girl to like it and start to get good at it, then it becomes contagious. But it's a different challenge, especially with work ethic and not appearance, but the whole stigma of a girl wrestling. It's still very new in culture, even though it's been around for a little bit. It's still kind of, the stigma is odd.
Oh,
Yeah.
so it's not that like wrestling season is during equestrian season or polo. It's just that I don't know. Just
Yeah.
when you're in Anaheim Hills and stuff like that, I just wonder that might be part of it too. But
Narco.
Yeah.
sorry,
Get it right. Narco.
Orange County, or sorry, Anaheim Hills adjacent. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so, but with that being said, I wonder if they're going to add girls Greco to the Pan American since they added it to California State. I think that it's probably going to be growing, right? Like moving out broader. That's what I heard like a while back, a couple of years back, was that UWW was going to be pushing girls Greco, but now we
Well,
have
here's the thing. I was reading I was getting brought up to speed on the whole Facebook shenanigans that you, Mario, and So Ill were going back and forth with. I think it's hilarious. It's good read. Uh, I feel that, okay, so we pounded the floor, we pounded the pavement, we knocked at the door, we made a fuss about it, and we're going to get it. But now what? You know what I mean? And that's what I feel with a lot of the rhyme and reasons of why the sport isn't growing is we have the right reasons why to get into it and do certain things and change activities or change rules or uniforms, but then it just falls from the waistline. So what is the next strategy? Like, how are we going to evolve for these girls to give them opportunity to grow women's Greco? Because men's Greco isn't growing.
that's the thing. We don't have a lot of high level. I mean, for our nation, I guess we have high level, but in terms of like, world beating, consistency at the
Yeah,
Greco
we're
level,
not growing.
we're
No.
not. I mean, it's rough, and
I mean, you've gone to Greco international tournaments and freestyle international tournaments, and even Las Vegas. I hate to say it, if there's a Greco finals, unless it's two guys that I really want to watch, I get up and use that time to go to the bathroom or get a Coke or get some popcorn or wait for the fireworks of Jordan and somebody else, and it's not that I don't appreciate the sport of Greco. It's just like it's difficult to watch at times, and I feel like Mario sold the idea to get this in the girls' environment, but what is next? You know, like I kind of like want Mario to strategize and put a game plan together to evolve the participation and get girls excited about it.
You know what? Give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna see if I can get him on right now. Maybe he's back from Farmers Market.
I I heard his wife takes his phone away from him after 7 p.m. So
Yeah, it's actually well, because he's got to do her nails before she goes to bed because she's got to go to work the next day. Um, so let's see again. Let's see if we can get him on real quick.
he's gonna hate me for saying that. I'm sorry, Mario. I'm just kidding, buddy.
Let's see here. Um, but yeah, I mean that's
But I
real.
mean, what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, and it's just not adding Greco to girls, but like we changed the uniform singlets, to the fight shorts and the rash guards, and I thought that was really going to be a new, evolution of the sport, and participation was going to be up the roof because now kids don't have to wear the leotard, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But what's next for Greco wrestling for girls?
Well, I think that whole, the duo, the top bottom fight shorts rash guard, I think that too many old school coaches like didn't even make it an option because the varsity boys that have been wrestling for so many years, and this is a lot of teams I've talked to, they didn't want to go to that. So they didn't switch to it. And I've seen some teams like embrace it, the whole fight shorts. Like I know Selma, Bosco, they have different sets, but they'll wear both. But for girls, you see probably 85-90% still wearing singlets. And I don't know if it's what they have or they just haven't decided to order it. I mean, my daughter would prefer to wear a singlet. That's just the way she is.
I think that whole push is ridiculous because number one, most of those ones, including Selma's, from what I can see, don't even have like the regulation 2-piece. You're supposed to have a 4-inch tail on the back. You're supposed to have like inseam. It's all these things, and it was like nobody's following that. So I'm waiting for somebody to call somebody out on that. Number two,
you just did.
What's that? Oh.
You just did.
No, I mean in a tournament setting. So, and they may have adjusted it. I don't know, but I was just saying, like, it just looks like it's not the regulation. But on the other side of it too is I don't think it's necessarily that there was a push or that it was going to save wrestling, because if they really thought it would, they should have started at a kids level and see if the numbers grew from there, and then kind of went up from there if the numbers grew. But I think more it was probably a corporate push, because it's a lot easier. Nike wants to get in the game. It's easier for Nike to just say, hey, look, we have this compression gear from football, throw some wrestling on the front of it, send it out. It would be.
I disagree. I disagree. And being I have a lot of insight on this.
Yeah.
So when I was with Clinch, and even when I was with Asics, and I wasn't in the apparel side with Asics, but the manager Annette was very, very open to my ideas, especially in wrestling. And we went to high school nationals, and we asked a lot of kids, and we went to local tournaments, and we asked a lot of kids, like, when you started wrestling, what was your first kind of like vision of wrestling? And they're like, oh, two sweaty boys wrestling in leotard. And we're like, okay, so did that make you not want to join the sport? Did you have second thoughts? 100% of the time was like, yeah, I had second thoughts. So that was the rhyme and reason why the 2-piece kind of was really pushed, because the brands that were doing their due diligence, listening to the consumer at the very early age, freshman level, sophomore level, not the senior level. Because here's the thing, you guys have to understand. When I started, I was 100 pounds. I didn't have an ounce of muscle. I was just sticking bones. And I wore a singlet. I was embarrassed, dude, especially in Santa Ana. Like, girls are in the stands, and I'm embarrassed, right? But my senior year, man, I was shredded. I'd walk around in my underwear if I could, because I was that confident in my body.
I was going along in mine at 75 pounds.
You see what I'm saying? But the thing is, like, even my girls, like, when they started wrestling, like my youngest daughter, her first wrestling tournament, she had compression pants, a compression shirt, and then a singlet on top because she was uncomfortable with that. And I just, and that is the reason why this whole double sport or 2-piece singlet kind of evolved.
I think that I would believe that, but only that when Cliff Keen, I think, was the first one to have the doublet. And
it was double sport.
Yeah, it's called duo sport back. Like they did a college duel.
Yeah,
7, 8 years ago.
it didn't go
It was
anywhere.
Hofstra and somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, okay, that looks kind of sick, and it just nowhere. And I was like, oh man,
Oh,
I would
because
say that
well, here's the
because
thing:
they're both
it didn't
compression.
go anywhere because it wasn't a uniform that the NCAA or the NWCA had approved, right? And when you kind of ruffle the feathers or you bring something out new to market, right? The consumers are like, dude, they want something that nobody else can have, right? And then you had this timeline. I think it was like 7 or 8 years where then all of a sudden now it's a uniform. But here's the thing: high schools with not getting funded, I think they're going to have a harder time transitioning buying the two piece, because they're $60-$70 a piece. They got to fundraise, and for them it's easier to buy 2 or 3 singlets to kind of keep their set alive, instead of reinvesting and buying new uniforms for everybody else.
Yeah, I just, I mean, I guess we're gonna be able to tell, right? I mean, numbers are down again this year.
Yep.
I mean, if they don't go up, I mean, really, it's kind of just a failed experiment, And yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the numbers would be worse if you didn't have that option, Somebody doing an ultrasound? How's somebody doing an ultrasound? There you go, Ramirez. Park's trying to keep up with him.
Sorry, guys.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's my gripe about it. I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
We do them. I don't think any of all my kids are like, no, like wrestling's about the singlet. And when I was at Panorama, we did a singlet practice before we even let the girls wear it in competition, just so they got like used to it. They've been like, comfortable amongst themselves. They realized that while they were going live, they weren't even thinking about what they were wearing. And by the time, dude, those girls wanted to wear those singlets on campus to school the next day. And I think they did.
Well, because they got confident. They lost some weight. They got muscles. Yeah, I totally get that. But anyways, let's get back to the girls Greco. So what is the next step?
I don't know. Mario's not answering, and I've sent him messages. I sent him invites right now. I don't know. I think
the next step is having some coaches that know Greco, which is not very, many of them in California. I mean, there are some high level ones. There's, CYC up in Northern California.
Yeah.
We have some good Greco people down here. Daryl Christian lives in San Diego. I know he works with some fighters and stuff. And we have a couple in Orange County with Mark and the Holidays that are all high level Greco. But I mean, maybe there's people I don't know about, and there probably are. But it's tough enough finding good freestyle guys that know freestyle coaches.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
I mean, that's a lot of people's excuses too. Is like, oh, I don't know freestyle. The rules always change. They don't really, take the time to learn it. I think the same thing is with Greco. But even at that, like high level Greco, I mean, we don't really need high level right away. I mean, we just need basics, fundamentals, things like that to kind of get the girls going. I know Ramirez, your girls built for Greco.
Both of my girls are built for it. We went to prior to Fargo, we did a Lawa tournament, and I told them we're wasting our time wrestling each other because basically on the heavyweights you don't get a lot. So I said, go and register yourself for the guys division, and they wrestled, and Christina took first, and Angela took second. But most of the moves that the girls did, because the boys were trying to outpower them with their upper body, my girls countered all that stuff and just threw them and tossed them in the air, never tripped, never attacked the legs, and so I think my two girls are up for it. I know, we got Medeiros over here at Birmingham, who's a Greco guy, so we could tap into his knowledge. And I think as a section, if we wanted to make an all-star team, we could do something. We got people like Ramos who knows a little bit about it. And believe me, I didn't know freestyle. I wrestled at Birmingham, and when folk style was over, we actually went to Quartz Hills, Thousand Oaks, and those areas, and we did Greco tournaments. Freestyle was weird to us, and so me, I had to learn freestyle in order to be able to teach my girls, and I got 2 of them on the podium, I think, and not being a freestyle guy. So there are some of us coaches that I think we can step up. You know, and we shouldn't be scared of it. We can do it. We can do it. We got a lot of good coaches in the southern section, central, north, all over California that we can make a really good girls Greco team right away and make an impact right away.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the big thing would be to just, the next step would be to just start developing. That's really what it is, and prepare, because our understanding is that they want to start implementing it nationally, and having a national tournament. And, I know you saw, my banter back and forth with a couple of people about Pocatello and them having it for a couple of years, stuff like that. Which I was kind of against it. I was like, why? Like, those are just coaches who can't coach a freestyle champ, and they're just trying to get it. But when you sit down and you think about it, you got to understand too that what does it matter? At the end of the day, it's more wrestling for the kid. If it makes them stronger in another area, then great. You know what? Like, awesome. The same thing as when you got a kid who doesn't shoot, refuses to shoot. Well, if you can figure out a way to open that up, get them going to takedown tournaments, get them to do something to open up their lower level, then great. I know the first Masters champ I ever coached was Carlos Alanis at La Mirada. That kid was like a head and arm king, and he couldn't get over the hump. And then I worked with him for the year, and then he opened up his lower body. The kid ends up ranked third in the state going into state. He beats Patrick Alexania. He beats Madrid, Joe Madrid from Chaparral High School, freshman phenom. He beat Morgan Atkinson.
Temecula kid.
Yep. Yeah, Morgan Atkinson had to take him down twice in the last 10 seconds to go in overtime. Just awesome. So that's what kind of like sitting down thinking about it. That was kind of how my take changed. First I was like, no, this coach is trying to get themselves a championship. And then at the end of the day, it's like, no, why are you really doing anything that we do? Why do we coach? Yeah. Why are we here? It's for kids. And you know what? If you give a kid might not be a freestyle champ. Maybe he's just really good at head and arms, and that's a chance for him to win a state title. You know what? Well, then that kid's got that memory. And you know what? Good for that kid. So.
Well, and you never know what can transpire from there, right? Like, I think it's just a different opportunity, a different door that's opening from the female perspective. I would hate to see it fall from the waistline because just participation and or coaches just have the wrong mindset, that they're not going to put any effort to it because they don't have the right environment. They don't have the right coaches. We got to travel here. We got to travel there. Like, there's a guy, Mario and So Ill and other people that kind of, push the pace and open that opportunity. Let's utilize it, man. Let's go 100% in order for us to open additional doors, and the thing is that whether it's Mario or anybody else that's, knocking at the doors, I hope that they take him serious, because if this does definitely blow up, they're going to be fearful that every time that Mario or Soil or you guys open your mouth, it's because you guys have something brewing, I would hate for them not to keep you guys serious.
Yeah, and I think you're totally right with that, because if you don't have any foresight, if you're just trying to get something approved and you don't have any foresight beyond that, you're setting yourself up to fail. Mario, I think Mario's big thing was Pocatello. He likes the Pocatello trip. He really likes it. I think, but if you're screaming for it, you're championing for it, then you got to have that backup plan with it. You got to follow through with it, and I don't know. I hope those people like Mario who championed it have a plan, and like, okay, great, you got it in. Now what? Where are you going with this now? And here's the thing too: are you only going to champion for your kids, or are you picking up that flag to say, look, and I'm going to take this on to help develop everything?
Which is a big responsibility. Yeah, big responsibility. Yeah, it's a lot of time and energy. So
I would like to see USA Wrestling on the freestyle side too, kind of have some regional training centers for kids to like one in the north, one in the south, one in San Diego, one in Central, kind of like, the only place right now would be Fresno at the RTC for it. But, like maybe 1 day a week or 2 days a week, you have a Greco and a freestyle only place, kind of a nonpartisan, where the problem is going to be, kids are going to want to transfer to where that coach is, a really good Greco or freestyle coach. It could happen.
That happens anyways. It doesn't really matter. So I think honestly, what I've gathered from people in USA Wrestling when I was talking to them was that USA Wrestling doesn't want to have to do everything on their own. You know, somebody else, they want to see somebody else step up and help. You know, they don't mind helping, but they don't want to be the one sitting there having to hold the bag all the time. So us as coaches, it's like, okay, you know, to be honest, I think a lot of things that I try to do, you know, I think of it from a coach's perspective. You know, like, okay, what would help me as a coach? You know, okay, we do takedown tournaments because why? Because I have a kid who's great at head and arms and won't shoot. So, kid, tell you what, that kid can only hit 2 head and arms. Now the rest have to be leg attacks. You know, if I got new kids and they're afraid to shoot, well, guess what? You don't have to worry about being at a tournament, waiting for 4 hours, wrestling for 10 seconds, getting pinned, and then waiting another 4 hours for you to wrestle again. Now you come here, there's no chance of getting pinned. You get to work on your technique, and then, you know, you're moving forward. So for me, it was the best way I could think of to help as many girls as I can not be head and arm queens. And Josh, you and I talked about that before. We don't show head and arms because it's not wrestling. You know, that's what everybody perceives girls wrestling is going to be. So if this helps girls not be head and arm queens or be really efficient head and arm queens, then guess what? I think that we have probably one of the better ways to go about it. You know, so that's, you know, kind of my thing about that. But what do you guys think about this AWL that people are talking about? My understanding is that they're getting a base salary plus a bonus to win. Is this really the way to grow the sport?
I think I like it as for the senior level guys that are kind of maybe not the 1 and 2 on the ladder. I think it's a great way for them to make a living and earn some extra money. I think it'd be great to have actually like a whole league. And I think personally through RTCs would be the best way, but I don't think they're going to go that way. Is literally have dual meets between RTCs. I'm pretty sure it's getting funded by Andy Barth is what I'm gathering because, you know, Wayne Boyd is the one putting it together. So I guess my assumption is if Wayne Boyd's putting it together, Andy's funding it.
God bless Andy Barth, dude. That guy
I mean, that guy's...
He could walk away, dude, and just be playing golf and be on a yacht, you know, and he's continuing to give back and, you know, does a really good thing.
I like it. I don't know how it's going to go. And if these top, I mean, if Zane Rutherford doesn't even want to wrestle Jordan Oliver for a possible 10 grand, you know, are these guys going to want to wrestle? You know, I mean, Penn State's out for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Give me a second. We're going to get to that. I promise you we're going to get to that. But what do you think, Fernando? Do you think this is a way to grow the sport?
I mean, anytime you have a guy like that with deep pockets throwing money out there to kind of provide more opportunities for athletes, it's better in the sport. But it's how you market, how you make it exciting for the consumer to watch it and tune in. Like, I agree. You know, I'm not going to jump on the JL story, but I love that. I mean, people love drama. You know, I watch Jersey Shore just because of the drama. You know, my wife and I Jersey Shore Thursdays. You know, we have pizza and we sit down and turn off all the lights and we watch it because it's entertainment. You know what I mean? It keeps us coming back. And but what's going to keep that wrestling fan coming back? You know, like we're so easy to judge opportunity, but we don't provide solutions.
No, I think that's the thing. I'm not against it. Obviously, I'm not against wrestlers making money, you know, and then I, in my own small way, try to do something to try to get some extra money in some wrestlers' pockets. Haven't been able to do it again. I really, really, really want to, you know, but I don't think that the format is gonna draw in the fans, the casual fans, the people flipping channels. You know, when you have I like the structure of the flat rate. That's awesome. And the bonus to win. However, you're going to have a 2-1 match. You're going to have a 3-2 match because they're just trying to win. The way that like we ran the shootout, I think, is still a much better incentive and fan-friendly approach. You're not only getting bonus to win, you're getting incentive to win before regulation. And you're taking out basically the part that average America doesn't want to see, top bottom. You know, okay, yeah, turns are great. Very, very rarely do they really get the understanding of what's going on. But if you just make it more action, okay, let's say you give them 2 seconds, 3 seconds to go to their turn right away. Okay, great. Shorten that time period up. Shorten the periods up. When we did the shootout, we did I think the like 2 minute period or something like that, and it was first to 5 wins. You only count the takedowns, but if you did a 5-point move, then you got 2 points. And if you finish before regulation, you doubled your money. So JO's there, and he's trying to get that double the money. So you see him take somebody over the top, and he looks at the ref like two, like no, damn, and he goes back in the center, and it keeps the action going. It's what people, average America, wants to see. Even wrestling, you don't want to alienate your primary base, but you can't tell me anybody in the world who would rather watch people ride than to watch people do takedowns.
But you got sponsorship money. You got fans that do tune in. It's all viewership. But one thing that I was gonna kind of mention on I think what you did there at the shootout is fantastic. I think I love the idea. I take my hat off to you for providing that financial compensation for those athletes. That's fantastic. But for the casual fan, they already don't understand the rules and regulations of the sport, and then you mix it up with these, ended in regulation. I'm throwing you some more cheddar, this, and that. It creates a different, even more complex, way to watch. I think it needs to start really at the collegiate level. It needs to start at the NCAA and high school level, and just making it more exciting, and and really catering to that parent that's walking into the gym for the first time. And I mean, we all wrestled. You guys, we got the itch. The sport bit us, and we fell in love with the sport, and we went above and beyond, and we still watch it. And we're doing a podcast on Sunday late at night. Like, how are we going to catch that next adult that their kids are getting in the gym and trying the sport for the first time?
That's really why we went with the format that we did. I think if we had some visuals on the screen, it would make it easier for people to follow along.
Sure.
And I think the NCAA does a good job where they kind of have John Smith showing what a takedown is or what a tilt is. That helps. That helps. But how many people are tuned in at that moment? Versus like, okay, look, it's a straight takedown match. And I can put it to another sport that did something similar to what we did, and that's darts in Europe. In Europe, darts were just darts. They just were playing dart game, cricket or whatever, and it was what it was. You had this guy come in, and suddenly there's time limits, and there's ring girls walking the guys down, and it's a show now. It's a spectacle. And now darts is like boom. You put on a European channel, and it's like darts is a big thing. They got crowds. I wouldn't want this for wrestling, but people are drinking. They're like, it's crazy. It's a spectacle. And I think wrestling needs, we need to get out of ourselves. We need to stop doing what we've been doing for 100 years. And we need to start thinking like, look at why is MMA able to come in the early 90s and surpass us? And our main stars are going there, and they're getting more they're getting more sponsorships. And honestly, I kind of put it on wrestlers as a whole too, for not marketing themselves better. They're not, you work
showmen.
They're not showmen, and you work with them. Like, some of them are really difficult to like tie down, to get them to commit to something, to like, and keep open communication with them. I didn't know that until I did my event, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pull my hair out. Like, how is this happening? And then having the right people in place also, having the right travel people, having the right, this and that, so that they can follow through too. It's a lot of things I think that people don't see, but
I think as good as flow wrestling, as much as flow wrestling has helped the sport for the hardcore fans, I think we need to get it on regular NBC, ESPN, because like I've said before, is if you have wrestling, the US Open on ESPN, they're going to show those highlights on the highlight reel at 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock and whenever they're doing the sports thing. If it's not on ESPN, they're not showing those highlights. You're not going to even get those new people that are just clicking, trying to find something while they're watching ESPN. We need to put that, the amateur wrestling league or whatever buy that TV time on ESPN. That's money more well spent. That you have 30 minutes or an hour on
Now,
ESPN.
Fernando, correct me if I'm wrong. Everybody says that somebody else should be putting money in, but how many people are saying, I'll put in?
Well, you got to look at from a business perspective. You got to look at the return on investment, right? Like, I mean, I think ESPN does a fantastic job of showing the NCAAs because there's a return on investment there. The audience tunes in to watch that. I mean, whether it's online or it's on TV, they're committing to it, right? And I hate to read some of those blogs that ESPN did a crappy job and they're not doing more. And it's like they're doing as much as they can, man. They don't have to show it. They don't
Dude,
have to
I've
show
seen
it.
every single match. I've seen every single.
I mean, you don't even have to. You don't have to. I don't even have to argue with my wife about me going to the NCAAs with my boys anymore. You know, I get to watch it from home. I work from home, and then I throw a big party on Saturday. Get all my boys over. We got a taco guy, and we're all having a good time. It was better than actually being at the NCAAs, but you know that's not possible if the ESPN doesn't put it together. But there's viewership, and I feel like. You know, how is it that the California Wrestling State Championships, it's the biggest gross revenue for CIF, but yet we don't have the participation in terms of basketball participation and people putting people in the stands, etc. But the CIF State Tournament is the biggest revenue maker. How is that possible?
Man, that's another thing too. Like, I was talking with somebody about CIF. I'm kind of transitioning off to a different subject right here, but CIF regionals and stuff like that. We still don't know who's hosting what because of the state tournament moving and everything. But these schools that host regionals don't get any money. They get it. All they get is the snack bar. So CIF gets regional door and apparel. They get our section door apparel. Then they get the state, and now they have both of them at one venue. Like, but I mean, should we be kicking these schools back some cash for running this? I mean, the snack bar alone, I mean, yeah, I guess you could if it's done right, but I mean, they're going to have to do more to entice these people to start wanting to host, because I think this year people are starting to get wise that it's not really worth the cheddar.
You know? It's not, man. There's so much infrastructure. I was, in the time that I coached, I sent in with Glab. He kind of took it upon himself to do that. And his thing was just to kind of have our lower levels kind of see CIF and, not and for them to see it and envision themselves. But, they do a good job of putting state together. I think, moving into that arena is fantastic. I would, this whole debacle of Masters and what transpired last year, that's unnecessary. I can't believe that happened. But I think CIF needs to really show up and show where they're spending their money, how, why they're charging so much money and how it's going back to the sport, or how it's being distributed equally throughout other sports. You know what I mean? There's other sports that are not making the money that wrestling does, but should we be sharing that? And if so, where's it going? And what's the benefit for us,
Yeah. I mean, having a 3-day event now, the
That's
door
crazy.
Twice the population.
You know what, man? From my perspective, from my standpoint, my wife and I were talking about it. I'm like, it was the best thing that could have happened to our family, because now I don't have to drive. I don't have to drive to 2 different venues, 2 different weekends. Take all my kids, 4 kids. Now I go to one arena, 3 days. I'm done with it.
Done with it.
Yeah,
but,
it's awesome.
Amen.
But on your side, you got girls masters over here and boys masters over here. Yeah. That's going to be the hardest part,
That's
they both make the finals. They both make the finals. You're gonna.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. Someone's gonna hate me for sure.
That's for
Someone's
sure.
gonna be mad at
me. Them more. Yeah. You always like them more.
FaceTime.
Yeah, it's because he's a boy.
I know. Yeah, it's crazy.
No, that's crazy. That's a nightmare. But all right, fellas. Well, we are already over an hour. I appreciate you guys being on. Oh, one other thing too, before I let you guys go, I think it's important that we discuss this because we're talking about the sport and growing the sport, things like that. We always talk about what it takes to build a program, right? What it takes to to get numbers, what it takes to, things like that. And it's always pretty much the same thing, right? You got to give them their own thing. You got to have the school supporting you. You got to have the parents supporting you, those kinds of things. But I don't think we ever talk about like how delicate that is. How some schools are fighting an uphill battle, and case in point, Coach Ramirez here. I coached in the LAUSD when I was at Panorama. And despite the fact that we had success, I mean, in a matter of 2 years, we had 2 state placers with kids who never wrestled a day in their life, had powerhouses like San Fernando and Birmingham in our section. We won a section title once. And we still didn't get any love from the administration at all. They took away our room. The athletic director was a handful. I got told once because I wanted to have a 0 period wrestling because I wanted the girls to be able to take SAT prep classes and to get tutoring in the afternoon. I got told, you know what, there's the door, that kind of stuff. Coach Ramirez, I know, is kind of experiencing that. And of course, he's not on now. But I feel sorry for some of those programs that are fighting those battles. And if anybody is at right now fighting any of those battles, please let us know because I want to talk to them. I really want to cover that subject on a future podcast. So that topic and any other topic that anybody else wants to get covered, please let us know. We want to make sure that we cover what you guys want. I actually did get some good feedback this weekend, Josh. A coach asked me, what the hell's wrong with you guys? Some of us have more time on our hands than others, and we would like to have something more to listen to. So that was kind of cool. When somebody asks me what the hell's wrong with you, it's usually something bad that I did, and I have to explain myself. Yeah. So to have it on a good side, I think was a nice change.
So they wanted longer podcasts or more of them, or what?
They want more podcasts, more frequency. So I told them, well, once the season comes around, once Fernando wants to come on some more,
I'm always available, man.
We'll have some more content coming out. But yeah, so I think
to comment on how to grow the sport, man. I think and I get this from Scott Glab. He did a fantastic job of creating this champion type of mentality and environment at Santa Ana. And man, that guy got more love and more money than any other sport at Santa Ana High School. We were the biggest pain in the butts. It's ridiculous, but he always championed for us. And the way he did it is he put the numbers where they were. This is how many kids I have. This is how many kids, are succeeding because of the sport. This is how many lives I've changed. This community needs a sport, and he would fight the good fight in the right way and not, have that pump their chest type of mentality. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. He would always, if he couldn't get the money for something, he would fundraise and he would show the school district or the school officials and be like, I'm going to do this with you or without you. And you know what? If you guys want me to kind of champion the school the way that I'm championing this program, I need your support. And then he's just started, lobbying with powerful people, man. And those powerful people accepted the fact that what he was doing was definitely benefiting the community. And now, man, that dude's a legend. He can ask for a Bentley and he'll get it. It's crazy.
Hall of Fame, freaking a book. Like that guy probably have a movie after himself pretty soon. Because
for sure.
I remember the first time I knew anything about Santa Ana High School. I hadn't wrestled them, until I was a junior in high school. I got, I lived in Whittier, but I went to school at Savannah. And Casper, I took us out to Santa Ana High School. And Randy Bowers and I drove over and we go there and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go take downs, whatever. And I remember I hit this shot on this kid and I never in my life got hit with hips like I did. My nose literally like exploded. Like it just like poof. It was all over the place. Got takedown. But I remember like, gosh, what the hell they teach these kids? Then the next time I'm up, it's this little freaking shithouse. And he had a mustache. And this guy looked like he was 25, but he was only like 25 centimeters high. And his name was Roger Santiago. And I remembered like going with him and ham fighting. And it's the first time I ever had somebody grunt while I was wrestling him. Like he, and I was like, this kid's freaking grunting, dude. And then he would, super hard to penetrate, but got in, and then we were 1-1 in the off season. And then I remember I wrestled him at CIF Constellation semis my junior year. I dropped the semifinal match, and I had to wrestle him. No, I wrestled him for third and fourth. And I just remember that kid, man. Every time I wrestled him, he was just a goer. I ended up 2-1 against him, by the way. But yeah, he went on and took second in state, and had a good career. But yeah, that's the first time I ever.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's the best way to lobby for something, whether it's revenue, support. In the coach, you really got to champion, your community, your team, and I find it very difficult when you go in there and you pump your chest, or the coach prior to you went in there and just kind of created this animosity or this divide of the school officials versus the coaching staff and things of that nature. You just got to come in there like it's like a relationship. You got to pick and choose and fight your battles, and when you're ready to fight the battle, you better have the right information in order for you to win that battle, because if not, you're gonna look silly.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah,
real quick, too. I saw. Oh, I don't see many posts from Pablo because I can't. But he did post that Santa Ana College has only 5 wrestlers on the mat this weekend.
They're struggling over there, man. I don't know what's going on with Coach Silva. He's usually pretty good of having an amount of people. It's just, Josh brought up a good point. This generation, they don't want to work, man. They don't want to, they don't want to put in the grind. And, that's one of the things as a father that it's probably the most difficult for me. I have my oldest that's working out 3 times a day, and my youngest daughter, Cookie, that, just I have to get her off the mat. And my son, is just trying to, getting the vibe from Cookie and trying to do big things. And then I have my second oldest that will do the bare minimum. Just the bare minimum. She's just like, I wrestled for an hour, I'm good. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, you gotta work, honey. You gotta work. And for some people that's okay. And parenting is definitely hard, but the outcome is you're going to create these kids that go out in the real world and they're just not willing to put in the time. And I feel that that's what's kind of hindering the amount of people that they're signing up for Santa Ana College.
Yeah. And do you think it's her, like, just her personality, or is she like that with soccer too, or with other sports, or is it?
Yeah. Well, with sports in general, I think she gets bored really easy. But she'll read. She reads like there's nobody business. Like we have a full on library in a room in our house, and she'll sit there, she'll eat, and she'll read until like she can't open her eyes. And I'm just like, wow, that's crazy, because my other kids don't read. You know what I mean? But she's an avid reader. Like she'll read books, and it's funny because we'll be talking sports. We'll be outside swimming, and then we'll just hear a chuckle. She's reading a book, and she read something funny, and all of a sudden she's laughing, which is insane.
Oh, poor baby! You got an intellect. Gosh. Oh man, I'm praying. I'm hoping my daughter follows through, because my little one's like, I'm gonna be an engineer like mommy. I'm like, yes, please.
There you go, smart one. Yeah.
Like, yeah, but alrighty, fellas. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys being on. This is probably our longest podcast so far. Definitely our most watched, because I've been watching the numbers as we're going through, and they're pretty good. It's what happens when you have a superstar on there, huh, Fernando? It's like,
oh, stop it.
People want a bird, they want to bask in reflective glory, and here we are. So anyhow, all right, Josh, hey, thanks again. I know you're joining us from Anaheim Hills adjacent. We appreciate it. Fernando, we'll catch a taco together. Visit us.
All right, man.
All right. Everybody else, thank you guys for joining us. Again, we're on iTunes. We're on Google Play. If you can, please subscribe to us. Give us 5 stars, even if you don't think we deserve it. Hook a brother up. All right. If not for us, at least for Fernando. All right. So this podcast is pushed to the top. All right. But thanks a lot, guys. Have a good night.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Good night, you guys.
All right, and we are out.